What's going on, everybody? It's GameDad7. Welcome to the channel. Today, I have got the ultimate job guide here for you. This is part one, where I break down all generic jobs. And whether you are a newcomer or you're an Ivalice veteran, you're going to learn something here today. And I can't wait to get into it. So actually, we're just going to jump right into it. I do want to start off with some definitions, though, so that we're all on the same page. So character stats on the left-hand side, really simple. You've got HP and MP. Pretty self-explanatory. Those will change based off of the type of equipment that you wear on your chest and your head. The bravery and faith are inherent. They come with your character. Bravery, that affects the reaction abilities and how often they trigger. There's also some damage ratios for weapons and abilities that include your bravery. Your faith is related to your belief, and this indicates how strong you are with certain magic and certain weapon attacks, as well as how much damage you receive from certain weapon attacks and magic, as well as your odds of success with certain spells and abilities. Now, those bravery and faith values are affected by certain job abilities that can directly increase or decrease those values. Next, we have your unit stats. This is comprised of your job stats as well as any equipment that you have that alter these. So any damage or ability equations, this is what your unit brings to the table. I'll refer to these stats as two ways: base, and that's just directly how it changes when you change jobs, and growth, and that's how your stats are permanently changing over time as you gain levels as that job. An example would be, I've been a warrior for quite some time, and then I'm going to switch to a magical class. The magical class base multipliers are going to automatically increase my magic attack and my MP to bring my numbers up so I can be an efficient magic caster. But since I've been a warrior for a while, my physical attack has been growing at its core, so I'll have some stronger physical attack than, let's say, a magic user who's been one the entire time. You'll see what I'm talking about when we go over each job. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Up first, we have Squire. This is a standard job, so there are no requirements to unlock it. Squire level 2 unlocks Knight and Archer, and Squire level 8 goes towards unlocking the Mime job. They use swords, knives, axes, and flails. Most of the weapon calculations involve physical attack and weapon power, with the knife adding in speed and the axe and flail using a random number between 1 and your maximum physical attack times the weapon power. They can wear hats, hair adornments, and clothes. Notable equipment for the class would be the Scorpion Tail, which boasts a weapon power of 23. This can be poached from a Hydra, which is encountered in the Nelveska Temple side quest, as well as in Chapter 4 from a random battle at Belias Tor coming from Lionel Castle. Due to this being the first job we're going over, I'll explain this chart briefly. You have your base in your growth column, which I defined earlier. Then you have HP, MP, speed, then physical attack, magical attack, class, evasion, movement, and jump. Nothing really of note to go over here other than the Squire is what it is, the basic. The Squire commands are aptly called fundamentals because that's really what they are. Great for using as a secondary command ability on other jobs to help grind JP throughout this game. Abilities of note to learn are going to be the command ability Focus, which allows you to cast on yourself and increase your physical attack. It is a 100% success rate, and it is an easy way to farm JP. The other would be JP Boost. As I go through this guide, when you are building your characters, always have JP Boost on when you're grinding for experience in JP. During boss battles, obviously take that away. Beastmaster is also an interesting one. That, if you're standing within 3 spaces of a beast that you've tamed that is on your side, it will gain a unique special ability. There's only a handful of situations that I'd recommend that, but if you want to use monsters in your playthrough, it's a great thing to have. Here we can see fundamentals being used as a secondary command ability with the units using focus over and over again. This is an easy way to stack JP, especially if you have the enemy down to one last one and you nerf it or debuff it substantially. I like to give some builds for each one of the jobs. The Squire, honestly, I don't really recommend having one much longer than you need to either master or learn some of the basic abilities. But just for flavor and fun, and for the record, my builds, I do a little min-maxing. I want to make sure you do great damage or whatever you're trying to do, but I also like a little bit of flair and flavor in my builds, so I'll make sure I point out which one's which. So for Squire, for early game, just equip the best equipment that you can. The optimized equipment works just fine. This is more of a later game fun build that uses double hand on the scorpion tail to double the weapon power and really lean into that randomness but large weapon power that the scorpion tail brings to the table, and then using aim to even increase that even further. There is a trophy/achievement tied to this class. It's called Fighting Back, and it's using the reaction ability Counter Tackle. And when you use Counter Tackle, it needs to push the enemy back by 1 square, which is RNG. You can have it on a high bravery unit to increase the chance of Counter Tackle happening, and you can use this on any unit. It doesn't have to be a Squire with it equipped, so good luck to you on earning that. Up next, we have the Knight. Squire level 2 is required to unlock the Knight, and the Knight goes towards unlocking the Monk at level 3 and Samurai at level 4. The Knight uses swords and Knight swords. Both use physical attack and weapon power as their primary, but Knight swords add bravery as part of the equation. The Knight can wear helmets, hair adornments, heavy armor, robes, and shields. Some notable equipment would be the Defender Knight Sword. This can be poached from the Dryad monster family tree. The earliest a Dryad can be encountered would be in Chapter 2. You then need the 3rd level monster, which is the Elder Treant. The Knight boasts great HP and physical attack base and growth stats, making it a fantastic frontline fighter. It has weaker MP and magic attack stats, and while it can equip a robe, it is fun to play the paladin role with the Knight, having a magic subclass like White Mage equipped, but as you can see, it's not the most optimal. Art of War Knight skills have a lot of purposes. You can rend enemy equipment, damaging and removing it from the battle. This is great to remove a bow from an archer, for example, who no longer will have a ranged option against you. It also has several purposes to rend things like speed and power of enemies. Continually reducing the speed or the power of an enemy can make JP grinding or additional theft attempts so much easier. The reaction ability Parry allows you to actually use the weapon evasion stat. Weapon evasion stats do not come into play unless the parry reaction is equipped, and this applies from frontal and side attacks, but not rear attacks. Equipped swords is very important for special classes, so as we move into the Ultimate Job Guide Part 2, talking about unique jobs, that'll be really important. Something cool about Art of War is they can be applied to any standard attack, so if you equip a crossbow here using the support skill Equip Crossbow, you can then use Art of War abilities from range. This is an example of your pretty standard knight build. You could use something similar towards the beginning of the game or later in the game. Basically just heavy armor with a sword and shield. A fun mix-up is something like this where you throw on dual wield from Ninja. Now this is great because it allows you to double strike with the Art of War ability, so you can rend something twice. Using the ice brands, change your weapon damage to ice, so then equipping the black robe helps increase the ice damage you put out. And then using Ninja Throw allows you to do range damage without having to worry about using a magic stat. Here's a quick example of what a ranged knight would look like. And then a favorite of mine is once you have a knight sword, use the samurai double hand support ability, put on like something like martial arts in the secondary skill to give yourself some heals and ranged attacks, and use parry to take advantage of that 60% weapon evasion that the defender gives. There is a trophy/achievement tied to the knight class called Fragilities Exposed. You need to destroy 5 pieces of equipment using the rend abilities. Your chance of success is directly related to your physical attack and weapon power, so just make sure you have those as high as possible and smash somebody's equipment as often as you can. Up next, Archer. The Archer is unlocked at Squire level 2, and at level 3 you unlock the Thief from the Archer. At level 4, it goes towards unlocking the Ninja. The Archer uses crossbows and bows. Crossbows use the standard weapon damage formula, while bows add speed into the equation, allowing you to think about manipulating your attributes to increase your damage. Archers wear hats, hair adornments, clothes, and can use shields when using crossbows. Because the damage calculation between bows and crossbows are different, what equipment you want to focus on determines on which weapon you're using. For a bow, you want to rely on equipment and job abilities that increase your speed attribute, where crossbow, you're just purely going for physical attack increase. Equipment of note would be the Artemis bow in Chapter 4. It's the first bow coming in at double-digit weapon power with a 10. This is poached from a monster in the Behemoth monster family, the second tier called Behemoth King. The first tier Behemoth can be tamed as early as the start of Chapter 4. If you have questions about poaching, monster tiers, and how to tame monsters, please refer to my poaching guide, where I go over some of the best equipment in the game and where to find the monsters to poach them and how. Archers don't bring much to the table when it comes to their stats. Decent base and growth for physical attack at an A, with a 10% evasion rating, which is nice. Their speed only being a B is disappointing because that is the main metric for the bow itself, so try to make sure you have equipment that revolves around increasing the speed of the archer if you're going to be using a bow. Archer's command ability Aim is all about delaying your attack and adding a charge time to it to increase the amount of damage that you do. And depending on how long you set the charge for is the increase in the damage. I find the sweet spot is between Aim +4 and Aim +7. Anywhere after or before that, you're really not getting much of a bonus, and you'll find the enemies move before you. A tip is that crossbows shoot directly straight out, so if an enemy, an ally, or an object is between you and what you want to shoot, that will get in the way, where a bow arches up over, so you can actually shoot over objects, enemies, and allies. As with the Knight, Arts of War can be equipped as a secondary command to be shot at a distance using your bows and crossbows. Speed Surge is a nice reaction to learn. Remember that reactions triggering are based off of your unit's bravery. You can cheese this by targeting your own ally with something that does minimal damage, like a spellcaster using a melee attack, or throw stone. A quick example of a build for an archer uses equipment that maximizes your speed and Arts of War to rend at a distance. Concentration is a unique support ability that archers learn, and it doesn't increase the chances of you hitting an enemy. What it does is it decreases the enemy's chances of reacting or evading the attack. So it kind of does the same thing, but instead of affecting your input to the equation, it affects the enemy's input to the equation. The trophy/achievement related to the archer is very easy. It's called Guaranteed Hit. Inflict damage on enemies 5 times using aim abilities. Pretty self-explanatory. Does not need to be with the archer job active. Up next, the Monk. Knight level 3 is required to unlock this job, and the job goes towards unlocking Geomancer at level 4 and Samurai at level 5. The Monk automatically has the Brawler support skill applied to the job, which takes fist attacks and makes them much more deadly. The damage equation heavily involves your physical attack as well as your bravery. Monks wear minimal equipment, with only hair adornments and clothes available to them. For monks, you should target gear and accessories that increase your physical attack. Gear of note would be the Power Gauntlet accessory, which you can steal off of a guest unit that joins you as soon as Chapter 2 begins. You can also then purchase it later in Chapter 2. The upgraded version of the Power Gauntlet is the Bracer. This can be purchased in Chapter 3. Hair adornments are really important for monks, and they're hard to come by, so I'll tell you real quick how to get them. The Barret on the left and the headband in the middle, each of them or make you resistant to about half the status resistance in the game, and then the ribbon on the right is like combining both of them and makes you resistant to almost all the status effects in the game. Poaching is an easy way to get them. The Barret you can poach from the 3rd tier of the Chocobo family, the red Chocobo. You get a tier 1 yellow Chocobo very early in the story of the game, so hold on to that and you'll end up with a red very soon. For the headband, you need to poach a pig, which are very difficult and rare to come across. But there is a 20% chance that one will show up in a story battle in Chapter 2, so you can get it very early. This is the battle before Gaug. It's the swamp where you first meet the undead with Mustadio as the guest. Keep reloading that battle until you have a pig as an enemy. Make sure you have an Orator to tame it, because you're going to need it to make other tier monsters. The tier 1, which is the pig, gives you the headband. You're going to want to wait until you have at least a tier 3, which is the wild boar, because that is what gives you the ribbon hair adornment on the rare poach. The monk has great stat blocks. As you can see, automatically an S base and HP, which you'll need because of the lack of equipment, and it gives you nice growth at A. Same with the physical attack, an A base with a B growth, and also an A base in the speed. So just changing to a monk, you're going to notice all of your stats are going to get a nice bump. The monk also has a 20% class evasion, which is great, and the jump moves up from a 3 to a 4, which allows you to get around the map better. The monk abilities are some of the best in the game. They're really well optimized for what the monk brings to the table as far as its stats, because everything is based off of physical attack and bravery. So you have a great mix of offensive and support abilities. Some ones to highlight here are going to be Aura Blast, which is a great ranged attack that does not trigger counters. Chakra is amazing. It restores health and MP, which is huge as there's not many things, at least early in the game, that restore MP. There is no charge time, and it also has an area of effect. Revive is also amazing with Purification. Both of those need to be on the same level height as far as the square next to you that you're going to cast that on. Brawler is amazing to use in other jobs as it does so much damage. Counter is great early game. Life Font can be great if you combine that with Regen, where every turn you're getting constant HP. There's lots of versatility too. Monks can be some of the best stealers in the game, where you equip thief skills and speed surge, as well as attack boosts, as Brawler gives big bonuses to stealing. Another fun build is if you put on dual wield, you can punch twice, and make sure you put on fundamentals to keep raising your physical attack. And because you'll want high bravery as a monk to increase your physical damage, something like Shia Hadori will really help you evade lots of damage. The trophy/achievement tied to the monk job is Earth Rent Asunder. You need to simultaneously inflict damage on 2 or more enemies with the Shockwave ability 5 times. Shockwave strikes out in a direct line, either north, south, east, or west from your monk. The easiest way to do this is to pull enemies towards you and then use some sort of debuff to stop their movement. Then you can line them up and then just keep using this move over and over again on them. Up next, the Thief. Requirements for this job are Archer level 3, the Thief goes towards unlocking the Dragoon at level 4, and the Ninja at level 5. The Thief uses the Knife, whose damage is the typical physical attack and weapon power, but it also adds speed to the formula. So make sure you prioritize accessories and gear that increase the speed of the Thief. They can equip hats, hair adornments, and clothes. Some notable equipment would be the Air Knife to be poached. This does wind damage with a weapon power of 10, and the Will Straight Blade with a weapon power of 12. Both of them are poached from the Floating Eye family, which can be encountered as early as Chapter 1 for Taming. The Air Knife is poached from the rank 2 Ahriman, and the Will Straight Blade from the rank 3 Plague Horror. The stat block for the Thief is pretty average as far as physical goes, but pretty poor when it comes to magic. Having an A for both base and growth and speed is very nice this early in the game, as well as having a 25% evasion bonus. They also carry a 4 for movement and jump. The Thief abilities are all pretty self-explanatory. You're stealing an item from the enemy. Steal is influenced by speed. The only one that is not is Steal Heart, which is technically a magical attack, and that is influenced by the magical attack. It also can only be done to the opposite sex. Charm is very useful, as you are then taking a turn away from the unit that you have then charmed, and usually another unit on the same team will then waste their turn to hit that unit to remove the charm. So technically you're taking away 2 turns with 1 ability. Some really awesome equipment can only be stolen in the game. It's also really helpful if you've grinded a little bit and then in random battles you're encountering humans. A lot of the times their level will be your party level, which is beyond that of the store equipment level. So you can actually get much better equipment from these random fights by stealing from them than you could from buying at the store. Honestly, I only recommend being a thief as long as it takes to learn all the abilities and then move on. Thieves are outclassed by ninjas and monks when it comes to stealing ability. Movement +2 is a really helpful thing to learn and use on other classes, and then poaching is its own really cool in-game mechanic that is awesome. I've mentioned it earlier, but poaching summed up is you can get rare and powerful equipment early by taking advantage of monster taming, and then also certain rare and powerful equipment you can only get from poaching. So it's a really awesome mechanic to engage with. I have a whole video breakdown of it that I've referenced earlier in the video. Your standard thief kit is going to look something like this. Speed Surge is a reaction ability to make sure you up the speed, using equipment that gives you bonuses to speed, movement +2 to get around, and attack boost to raise your stealing success chances. There are 3 trophies and achievements through the thief class, and they're all related to poaching actually, not thieving. So there's the Poacher's Way, successfully use poach 5 times. Rare wares, get 10 different items from the poaching facility that can only be poached and not bought in the game. And then Welcome Poacher is just using the Poacher's Den. Up next, Geomancer. The requirement for this job is Monk level 4, and the Geomancer job goes towards unlocking the Ninja for level 2, Female Dancer at level 5, and the Mime also at level 5. The Geomancer uses the sword and the axe, and remember the axe has the random 1 to your maximum physical attack times the weapon power. They can equip the hat, the hair adornment, clothes, robes, and shields. Their abilities scale on magic attack and physical attack, but mostly magic attack is important for the Geomancer. Some equipment of note for the Geomancer is the Rune Blade Sword. It has a weapon power of 14, but it carries a magic attack of +2. They can be found in Chapter 3, but if you are leveled up a little bit, you find them in random battles that have human enemies once you hit around level 37. The Materia Blade Plus is amazing for this class with a 16 weapon power and a +4 magic attack. This is an item that can only be found the Chemist movement ability called Treasure Hunter, and I actually made a video about how to obtain this, which I'll link in the top right. The Aegis Shield. This shield has a +1 in magic and is available in Chapter 3. And very importantly is the Japa Mala accessory. This is available from random encounters with humans starting at level 25, or you can buy it in Chapter 3. The earliest you can find it is stealing it from an enemy on the Riavinus Roof encounter. The Japa Mala is important because it resists a lot of status effects, but most importantly is it enhances elemental damage. And the Geomancer abilities, several of them are linked to lots of different elements. Geomancer stats are great across the board. It really excels in HP and physical attack growth. Many special jobs, it's recommended to have those characters hang out as Geomancers for a while to take advantage of these growth stats. You also get a 4 instead of a 3 for your movement and a 10 evasion. At only 150 JP a pop for the action abilities, and then an overall light 2,870 JP requirement to master this job, it is extremely easy and fast to work your way through. Each one of the abilities relates to a different terrain type. Most of these have their own element and debuff assigned to them as well. You have a flat 19% chance to cause the debuff. It targets multiple squares, it's a guaranteed hit, there's no charge, and no MP. If you hear anyone talk about how the Geomancer is a jack of all trades and it's just okay, they're more than likely not using it correctly. You need to focus on your magic attack to really make them optimized and use your abilities constantly. That includes the reaction Nature's Wrath, which will use an ability for the terrain you're standing on, even if you haven't learned the corresponding ability to go with it. Attack boost is great and can be used across various jobs. You've already seen builds, especially when we're talking about thievery, to use attack boosts. This is my go-to Geomancer build. You can use the Rune Blade for the +2 magic attack or the Material Blade for the +4. The Aegis Shield gives you another +1. The Lambent Hat gives you a +1. There are plenty of other hats that also give you +2 magic, as well as robes. You can wear the Wizard Robe to give you a +2. The Japa Mala for the reason we already talked about. And then for your secondary abilities, I love using the Samurai abilities because they scale off of magic attack well, and it's like a local area summon along with some supportive abilities, but you could swap in really any magic secondary, black, white, Time Mage, Mystic. You want to use magic boost for your support, and for your reaction, Nature's Wrath, so this way you're being a true Geomancer. The trophy/achievement related to the Geomancer is called the Lay of the Land, and you need to inflict damage on enemies with 5 different Geomancy abilities. Very easy to obtain. Up next, the Dragoon. The job requires Thief level 4, and it works towards unlocking Samurai with level 2, Female Dancer at level 5, and Mime at level 8. The Dragoon uses the polearm, which damage equation is the standard physical attack times weapon power, but what's unique about the polearm is that the damage extends one additional tile from your character, so you can attack up to 2 spaces north, east, south, and west of your Dragoon. The Dragoon can equip the helmet, the hair adornment, heavy armor, robe, and use a shield. You should focus on weapons and equipment that increase your weapon power and physical attack, as well as speed. Some notable weapons for the Dragoon are the Holy Lance, which has a weapon power of 14 and has the chance of casting the spell Holy upon hit, and it strengthens Holy as well. The Dragon Whisker, which has the weapon power of 17, and the Javelin 2, which has the weapon power of 30, one of the strongest in the game. The Holy Lance can be obtained early by using Taming. You can tame a Wizenkin in Chapter 1 of the game, and eventually end up with a Class 3 Secret. You can get started on the Whale Whisker early by taming a green dragon at the Lanalian Plateau in Chapter 1. Enter from the Magic City of Garland and redo it over and over again until one appears. Eventually you'll need a Tier 3 Red Dragon. The Javelin 2 can exclusively be found using the Chemist movement ability Treasure Hunter on the Noveska Temple stage. I made a guide on how to make sure you don't miss this here. The stats for the Dragoon play really nicely for a physical attacking class. You have all A's in HP and physical attack for both your base and your growth. It's a little bit poor for magic, but not as bad for the magic growth. Speed is decent with a B. 15 evasion is nice, and a 4 for your jump. That B in speed really holds the Dragoon back from being the best at its own ability. Some other jobs that have higher speeds make it better at jumping than the Dragoon. The Dragoon is still very effective at this. The Dragoon jumps from its tile and lands on a distant tile depending on your abilities learned. The amount of time it takes for you to land is based on your speed. The better speed, the faster you can crash down and do massive damage. An underappreciated benefit of jump is while you are in the air, you cannot be targeted. The extra reach of polearms also help keep enemies at a distance. Both of these make the Dragoon survive a lot longer than other classes. This is a typical Dragoon build. You've already got ranged covered with jump, so it's nice to have something like martial arts where you can self-target with chakra or using something like revive. Speed surge is a great reaction to help increase your speed so you jump more frequently, and I found that Dragoons are great at poaching. Now for a really heavy hitting Dragoon, put double hand on and this will double your weapon power when it comes to your attacks. Double hand does not affect jumping though, but when you already have a really strong weapon, you're already going to do a ton of damage with jumping. Also a tip with jumping, when you use a polearm jumping, you get a 1.5 bonus to the damage, and you also get a bonus when you use fist and brave, but anything else like swords or any other thing you want to use, you're not going to get that bonus. It does help though if you unlock Dragoon early to use something like equip swords or fists, so you can level this up by the time you get polearms unlocked. The trophy/achievement for Dragoon is to inflict damage on enemies with jump 5 times. Up next, Ninja. The requirements are Archer level 3, Thief level 5, Geomancer level 2, and no other classes use Ninja to unlock. For weapons, knives, ninja blades, and flails. Knives and ninja blades use speed as part of the damage equation, and flails use that random 1 through your max physical attacks attribute. For equipment, they wear hats, hair adornments, and clothing. Prioritizing speed will help with some of your weapon damage, as well as making sure your ninja goes as often as possible. Some weapons of note are Sasuke's Blade. This is a ninja blade with a weapon attack of 14. It can be found using the Chemist movement skill Treasure Hunter on the Noveska Temple side quest map. Also, the Scorpion Tail is recommended, which is found by poaching a Hydra, which can also be found at that same map. I put the Axe Slasher on here, not because the ninja can wield it, but what the ninja can do is throw it. And when weapons are thrown, the modifier is your speed times the weapon power of the thrown weapon. So no longer with those weapons that have high stats like axes and flails that are random, you now can throw them and automatically deal their max damage. Ninjas have very specific stat growths. You want to hit something hard and you want to do it fast. They have poor HP, magic, and magic attack, but they don't really care about that. With a 30% evasion, that's huge, and a maximum 4 movement and jump. The ninja abilities are pretty easy to master at only 3,960, and honestly, I would say you only need to learn Shuriken, bombs, and axes. The other amazing skill to learn is dual wield at 1000. This can be used across various jobs to really maximize the amount of damage and stats you have available to you. Ninjas have great versatility and often go first in battle, which lets you get the early hit on the enemy. When it's time for you to close in, they do big damage with their double attacks. You can equip Art of War and have them do a double rend on an enemy, which is really useful. Because their speed is so high, you can benefit from things like jump and stealing. And with jump, if you want to use something like the Scorpion Tail, it's going to use the maximum weapon power in the calculation for figuring out the damage. So here's an example of the jump ninja who's just going to be flying all over the map using that Scorpion Tail at max damage, boosting it up with the bracers and the attack boost, and ideally high bravery with Shiodori equipped so that way they're rarely hit. And here we have a stealing ninja. This can replace your thief, where we want to maximize speed. So notice the thief cap, the Hermes shoes, and we also have speed surge equipped as our reaction along with attack boost to really try and maximize our stealing opportunity. Our achievement / trophy for the ninja is throwing weapons, inflict damage on enemies with throw 5 times. Very simple. Up next, Dancer. The job requires that the unit be female, Geomancer level 5, and Dragoon level 5. The Dancer is not used to unlock any other jobs. There's a lot of variety in the weapons. You have the knife, which factors in speed, cloth, which factors in magic attack, and then you have the bag, which has the randomness we see in the flail and the axe. For equipment, they have the hat, the hair adornment, and clothing. So the weapon choices have physical attack plus speed or magic, or just randomness. So honestly, there isn't really a straight direction that's optimized for the Dancer. Bravery and physical attack technically are the optimized method for the Dancer, but most of the dances just have a 50% success rate. So at this point, I would ever look for an item that has a passive bonus that works for you, or whatever secondary skill you're going to put on your Dancer, have the equipment be slotted towards that. The item of note, and the one I would go after, would be the Hydra Scale bag. It's got a weapon power of 14, which is nice, but it gives a passive speed +1, which means your dances are going to happen more often. Now this can be poached from a green dragon, which you can actually get in Chapter 1 at the Lanalian Plateau, coming from the Magic City of Garland. So just reset the random battle over and over again until you have one, and then you can poach that and have it ready as soon as the poaching den is available. The stat growths are decent. You've got an A as the base for your physical, and pretty much a B for most growths other than HP and MP. Only a 5% evasion and a 3 movement and jump. You're more than likely going to be using your Dancer skills as a secondary on another job anyways. Dancer only takes 3,500 JP to master, and most of that is spent on the reaction and movement. Your abilities themselves only cost 100 apiece. It truly is a set and forget type class. You move your Dancer away from harm's way, set up a dance, and then wait till your turn comes around. Boosting the speed of the Dancer obviously helps the dances come around faster, and some of the best debuffs in the game are able to hit the entire enemy party from the Dancer. Forbidden Dance is one of my favorites. It's a 50% chance to hit an enemy with a random status effect. As you can see here, just completely decimating the enemy team. You can also lower their speed by doing this 1 by 1 with a 50% chance, as well as reset their charge time back to 0, resetting their turn. Here's a basic build for a Dancer with that set and forget mindset. The hard scale bag gives the +1 speed, so does the Thief's Cap. This perfume casts regen and re-raise on the Dancer, so I don't have to worry about if she gets sniped by an enemy. Also Mana Shield as a reaction. This is where MP is targeted as opposed to her health. Make sure that bravery is high enough to where that triggers reliably. The trophy / achievement for this is when Demons Dance, inflict a status ailment on 3 or more enemies at once with Forbidden Dance 5 times. That's just an RNG thing. Just keep at it and you'll get it. Up next, the Samurai. To unlock this job, you must have Knight level 4, Monk level 5, and Dragoon level 2. The Samurai is not used to unlock any other classes. The Samurai use Katana, which are based off your physical attack, your weapon power, and it adds in the bravery of the unit. The Samurai wear helmet, hair adornment, armor, and robe. Now aside from bravery affecting their melee damage from the katana, their ability skills scale off of only magic attack. So you want to make sure you have equipment on your samurai that is going to increase their magic attack. Some equipment of note would be the Masamune Katana, It has a weapon power of 18. It's the Genji armor set, including the Genji gloves. The Genji gloves give a +2 to attack and magic attack, which is very helpful for the samurai. The Genji armor gives great health bonuses. You could use a wizard robe in the chest piece to give you even more magic attack, but for flavor, the Genji fits. All of this is stolen from a boss fight in Limbre Castle, which I have a guide how to do it. Don't miss it. Check out the guide here in the top right. The samurai has decent stats. Its HP and MP are kind of left to be desired with a B for speed. Its physical attack is good. Its magic base is a C, but the growth is a little bit better at a B. 20% evasion is nice, with only 3 movement and jump though. Samurai does feel a little undercooked with all of its ability attacks being based purely on magic attack. No weapon or physical power at all is added into the equation. It does feel like I would rather the physical and magic stats be swapped, which wouldn't really make sense for a samurai thematically, but utility-wise, it definitely would. The samurai abilities use one of your katanas to actually activate the ability. They can break from being used. So you're gonna have to make sure you have maybe 1 to 5 extra in your inventory in case they break in the middle of battle, especially for ones that are used often. Crusher is very situational as a reaction. Shira Hadori is one of my favorite reactions. It takes the unit's brave and it turns that into your evasion. So if you have a unit with a very high brave score, you can evade most attacks that come your way. Double hand as a support can be nice for some others. I showed you that on the Lancer. It honestly is a shame that the samurai doesn't come with double hand as an innate ability, as you cannot equip shields, so your second hand is left with nothing. So the samurai abilities are basically like local area summons. Some of the damaging ones cause status effects, which are really helpful, and there are plenty of useful supportive ones that grant things like shell and protect as well as heal. Here's an example of a samurai build where I try to really maximize my magic attack, so this way I can have really good use with my samurai skills, and for even further away I can use Geomancy. Now you can replace Geomancy with some other type of magic, but also take into account that your faith is going to matter for a lot of other magics, so that's why I like Geomancy. Shia Hadori, I'll more than likely have a high bravery unit use this, so that will also help my melee katana attacks as well. Overall, I feel the samurai is the most undercooked out of all of the jobs. It has its uses. I have samurai skills on a lot of my units, and I also use Shia Hadori, but I don't have a lot of units that are just samurai. And I expect for beginning jobs to move past those quickly and use their skills as secondary skills, but for a job that is at the end of the physical side of the tree, I was really hoping to use this more and not use its skills on other jobs more. Now for trophy and achievements, you have Soul of the Sword. Utilize the hidden power of 5 different katana with Ayato, so let's just use 5 different skills. Now before we cover the right side of the job tree, which is the magic side, I did want to stop and tell you, you have unlocked a new job, which is subscriber. So go ahead and change to the subscriber job and subscribe to my channel. If you're having a good time, share it with your friends, like this video. I also want to hear from you. Have you learned anything new? Reply in the comments if so. If you do anything different, reply also. I love when people put in the replies things that they would do differently, because people read replies to videos and maybe they'll learn something new there too. But just wanted to stop in and do a quick pulse check. We'll get back to the guide. Up next, the Chemist. Chemist is a default class with no requirements, and it's used towards unlocking the White Mage at level 2 and Black Mage, and it goes towards unlocking the Mime at level 8. The Chemist uses the knife, which involves speed into the equation, and it uses the gun, which is just weapon power times weapon power, so none of the character stats matter. The Chemist can equip hats, hair adornments, and cloth. Items do not have any ability modifiers, and you're not going to really be attacking with your Chemist, so try and put on equipment that raises your speed so that way you have more turns. Aside from getting X potions as soon as possible and then selling all of your potions and high potions so you only have X potions left, the only other desirable item for the Chemist, other than remedies and Phoenix Downs, would be the Glacial Gun. I actually made a video on how to obtain this, and I'll link it here. You steal it during one of the side missions to recruit Beowulf. Chemist stat blocks are really nothing notable, nothing really to go over. It is a default beginner class. Items can be clutch at certain parts of the game. An X potion is a straight 150 heal with no charge time and never misses. Phoenix Down always revives. An auto potion, if you have a decent enough bravery, especially with X potions, will keep you alive. Heals on demand that you can throw with no charge time, no MP cost, definitely help, especially when you can raise somebody from being down. And once a little bit later in the game and they get the guns unlocked, they provide a little bit of juice offensively since their stats don't really matter and it's all about the gun, especially later on if you can get some of the elemental guns like the one I referenced earlier. Here's an example of a Chemist build with that glacial gun. I like to use throw in the secondary slot so that way they're also throwing weapons, not just potions. And then early game, you'll probably have a knife like this. If you can get it early in the game, something like equip heavy armor really helps also bring their HP total up. Now the treasure hunter movement ability from the Chemist is very important. You can find some of the best equipment in the game from using this. The key is the lower your bravery, the better chances you are at finding a rare item in the treasure spot as opposed to a common item. And if you equip Treasure Hunter on the Chemist, it helps the percentages for getting that rare gear even more. Now there are two related trophies and achievements. One is called Finders Keepers and it is for using that Treasure Hunter ability. The other is called Emergency Treatment and it's remove an ally status or restore their HP 5 times using throw items. Up next, the White Mage. White Mage is required Chemist level 2 and it unlocks Mystic level 3 and the Arithmetician at level 5. They use staves which are based on magic attack times the weapon power. They wear hats, hair adornments, robes, and clothes. Their ability modifiers are off of magic attack as well as the faith of the caster and the target, so try to focus on equipment that increases your magic attack or speed. A piece of equipment to look out for would be the Zeus Mace. This gives you a +1 to your magic attack as well as a +2 to your physical attack. You steal it from this guy later in chapter 4. White Mages actually have really great stat base and growths. The only one that is a little bit lacking is the base HP, so you'll notice your HP will go down significantly when you switch, making you a little bit weaker. But otherwise for growths, it's got 2 A's and 3 B's. Only 5% dodge and minimal movement, but pretty good. The White Mage is your ultimate healer. You've got cures, debuff removers, and support magic. You've also got a great spell called Holy, which does really powerful holy magic, and it takes advantage of the White Mage's high magic attack. It's very important to at least have one of these on your team or a unit that has the white magic as their secondary ability, as keeping your group alive and protected is so important. Also, make sure to have decent faith on this character, as your faith, as well as the faith of the target, matters a lot for having your spells land and how much health you restore. Here's a basic White Mage with equipment that's meant to increase your magic attacks, Mystic Arts to debuff, Mana Shield to protect your HP total, and Swift Spell to get your heals out faster. A different type of White Mage here using Arithmetics to take advantage of the high speed and magic attack of the White Mage to cast Holy and other spells on all enemies. The trophy and achievement for the White Mage is called Corrupted Souls, and you have to KO 5 enemies with the Holy spell. Up next, Black Mage. Chemist level 2 is required to unlock this job, and it goes towards Time Mage at level 3 and Arithmetician at level 5. They use the Rod, which is physical attack times weapon power. For equipment, they wear the hat, the hair adornment, robes, and clothes. Modifiers are going to be your magic attack and the faith of the caster and the target. Make sure you're bumping up magic attack with every piece of equipment you can. Items of note would be the Wizard's Rod. This becomes available in Chapter 3 or from any random enemies after level 23. It gives you +2 to your magic attack, which is fantastic. Next is the Black Robe. This increases fire, lightning, and ice elemental damage, which as a Black Mage, that's most of what you're casting. This is available from any random enemies after level 31 or after the Yardro story battle in Chapter 3. The Mage Power Glove accessory increases your magic attack by 2 and is available early in the game in Chapter 2. The Black Mage stats are all about magic, so MP, base, and growth are fantastic, with your magic attack base being a S class and the growth being a B. Your base speed is a C, which does put it down lower than the White Mage. Black Mage abilities are all about dealing elemental damage. It's a whopping 8,500 JP to master the job. Each one of the elements gets stronger with each iteration, but it also takes longer to charge. Poison is a damage over time, and Toad is an interesting status effect that takes enemies out of the battle, but it also can be used to grind JP. Magic Counter is great, but extremely situational, and I'd only have it equipped if you're going against other mages. Magic Boost is a great support ability from the Black Mage. You've seen me put it on other classes such as the Geomancer and the Samurai, and anything that you're doing magic attack damage up, you want to have this on. Here's a pretty basic example of a Black Mage build using equipment that specializes in increasing your magic attack, along with the Black Robe to increase that elemental damage. I like Time Magic so that way you can have haste on yourself and also debuffs for the enemies. Archer's Bane is a situational fun reaction for a Black Mage because more than likely you're going to be targeted by enemy archers. So obviously if you're facing archers, pop that on there, and then Magic Boost is a must. Now here's a fun one, the Wizard with the Gun. Maybe out of MP, but I'm not out of bullets. You can use a magical gun to be able to cast spells basically without MP. Just make sure you have high faith. And some fun things I did on here was add samurai skills for the high magic attack and something like Mana Shield since you're not going to be relying on your magics as much and you have the bullets. And the trophy / achievement for this is called As Anticipated. Inflict damage on an enemy with black magic ability, target on a tile. Do it 5 times. So the trick for this is when you're casting the spell, as opposed to targeting the unit, meaning that if they move before your charge time for the spell is up, it'll follow them. You cast it on the tile, so whether they move or not, it's going to be cast in the same spot. So make sure you do that. Up next, the Time Mage. Requirements are Black Mage level 3, and it goes towards unlocking the Arithmetician at level 4. They use the staff, which is your magic attack times your weapon power. And for equipment, you have the hat, the hair adornment, the robe, and clothes. The success of your time magic is based on your magic attack, as well as the faith of the caster and the target, so make sure you prioritize equipment that boosts your magical attack. Now, because I already talked about a staff that can raise your magic attack for the White Mage, I'm going to throw in something different here. I'm going to put in the Mage's Cloak. You can get this early in Chapter 2, but if you are impatient and want to get it even earlier, you can poach a Skeletal Fiend, which is a 3rd level of the Skeletal family. The Tier 1 skeleton you can come across very early in Chapter 1, so you can tame that. Get the Monster Egg for the 3rd tier. The Mage's Cloak provides an 18% physical and magical evasion, as well as a +1 to your magical attack, so it helps you stay alive a little bit more, and then also gives you some magic bonus. But if you really want to stay alive even more as the Time Mage, you can wear the Featherweave Cloak. Provides a 40% physical evasion and a 30% magical evasion. Now this you can poach from a Tier 3 Jarvis Avis called a Cockatrice. This is in Chapter 4, but you can get it much earlier by taming a Tier 1 Jarvis Avis in Chapter 1, eventually ending up with a Tier 3 Monster Egg for you to poach. Having evasion rates like that really help you stay alive, which is important for your spellcaster. Time Mage has good stat growths for a magic user, pretty poor for the HP and the physical attack as you would expect, but A's across the board for MP and magic attack, other than the growth stat for magic attack, which is a B. Only a B for speed. We've got low evasion and low movement abilities as well. And knowing those stat growths are important because if you want to master this job, you are going to be it for a long time with a whopping 10,670 JP to master. Haste and slow, buff and debuff, which you're going to use constantly. It's very fast charge time. You can get those out. Stop and immobilize are great for controlling the flow of battle. Gravity is great because it deals a fixed percentage of damage of the max health, which works great against some of the bosses that have massive HP pools. Now 3,000 of that JP comes from one movement skill called Teleport, which is the ultimate movement skill. You can move anywhere across the map. It doesn't matter the elevation. Also, you can go much further out than the 3 or 4 movement squares, but if you go too far, the teleport will fail. The Time Mage does have one almost summon-like offensive ability called Meteor. It does massive damage over a big area on the map, but it does take a while to cast, but man, when it hits, it hits. It's a standard Time Mage build here. My equipment, I actually went with ones that favor my evasion as well as my max MP. And then for my abilities, I have Black Mage on here to do some additional offensive, but you can have White Mage, you can have Mystic, you can have Summon. Just depends on what kind of flavor you're going for. I had Archer's Bane here to be able to avoid enemy arrows that target my spellcaster, but if you're not facing archers, you can put something different on there, such as Mana Shield. This is a great reaction that's Time Mage specific that will damage your MP as opposed to your HP, but it's a reaction, so having higher bravery is what triggers this happening more frequently. Obviously, spellcasters aren't usually going to have high enough bravery for this to be something that you can rely on, but a really cool trick for this is to equip Mana Shield and then Mana Font, and have it so as you walk around, you gain MP, so you're constantly replenishing basically this temporary shield from your hit points. And the trophy/achievement for this job is to successfully use teleport 5 times. It's called Now You See Me, so you're going to have to save up for that 3000 JP movement skill. Up next, the Mystic. Unlock requirements are White Mage level 3, and it goes towards unlocking the Arithmetician at level 4. The Mystic uses various weapons: the pole, the staff, the book, and the rod. Poles are kind of like the pole arm, except the magical version. They attack from 2 spaces away, but your magic attack is brought into the equation. Books also use magic attack, but they bring in some of the physical as well, so it's not as pure magic, and rods we've covered a lot. They wear hats, hair adornments, robes, and clothes. Ability modifiers are magic attack for the success rate of your skills and the faith of the caster and target. So equipment that maximizes your magic attack will help the best. Now, we've already talked about several rods and staves that you can target to increase your magic attack, but I want to bring up the Whale Whisker pole here. This is a weapon power of 16. Now, there aren't any poles that give you any magic attack bonuses, so this would be more for if you're looking for like a battle mage type mystic. The thing is though, you need to poach a Tiamat, which is a tier 3 Hydra. The tier 1 Hydra you can first encounter in chapter 4 at the Nelveska Temple side quest. It's part of the Cloud and Reese side quest. The Mystic stats are similar enough to the other magic classes, with A's across the board for MP and base and growth, and an A for base magical attack and a B for the growth and magical attack. B's for speed, poor physical and HP, and only a 5% evasion and minimal movement. Some great abilities with the Mystic Arts: being able to cast Disable with hesitation, and then being able to stone enemies with Induration is fantastic. Being able to silence or berserk spellcasters really helps also. And you can do a cool trick where Belief, where it casts Faith and increases a unit's faith up to 100. You can cast this on an enemy unit that you want to be able to take more magic damage from one of your spellcasters, or the opposite, Disbelief. You can cast it on one of your units that you want to take no magic damage. Or Mystics are all about battlefield control. They help you grind for JP, poach, steal, a number of objectives. This would be a standard Mystic build. I've got equipment that maximizes my magic attack, so this way it increases the success chances of my status effects. I like to have something like Geomancer as a secondary skill, so I have some sort of ranged offensive ability, and with my high magic attack it goes well. Mana Shield to protect my maximum health since I have a Wizard's Robe with low HP, and Swift Spell so I get those spells out faster. This one's a little bit more flavor. It's kind of like a battle mage, cleric kind of build. You got the pole to do good damage, and you've got a shield equipped to be able to protect yourself along with the mage's cloak. Equipment that's going to maximize HP, and I went with white magics to be like kind of like this cleric type. Mana Shield to protect my HP, and using that Mana Font trick to be able to always replenish my MP to have that Mana Shield up. The trophy/achievement related to the Mystic is No Shadow Without Light. Inflict status ailments on enemies 5 times with using the Mystic Arts. Up next, the Arithmetician. It unlocks with White Mage level 5, Black Mage level 5, Time Mage level 4, and Mystic level 4. It is not used to unlock any other jobs. The Arithmetician uses the pole and the book, both of which bring magic attack into the equation. The book adds a little bit more physical attack. They wear hats, hair adornments, clothes, and robes. Their ability multipliers work off of magic attack and the faith of the target and the user. My recommendation is that you boost their speed. As you can see, As you can see, they are one of the slowest jobs with a base speed of D, so it will drag your speed down no matter what as soon as you change. Their growth and stats are pretty poor overall. My recommendation is to not spend that much time as one of these. You grind your JP and learn your skills, and you use this as a secondary command on other jobs. The way the job works is you choose a condition, so let's just say target level, and then you choose a factor, so prime, multiple of 5, 4. Let's say we choose multiple of 5. Then every target whose level is a multiple of 5 is then affected by the spell. And the spells are a combination of all the ones you've learned on other jobs. Now, a skill will tell you on another job whether you can use the Arithmetician skill on it. You cannot use summons, but you can use something like haste or disable. Now, before you pick the algorithm you're going to use to cast a spell, it'll preview and show you who's going to get hit. So you can basically just trial and error, pick the best combination for what you're going for. But right here, I'm casting disable on almost the entire group of enemies. This is by far the most powerful spellcaster in the game if it's used correctly. It's just the job that it's stuck on isn't great, but using it on other jobs works well. It's no charge time and no MP. There's an infamous trick where you basically cast Holy on the entire enemy battalion and win the battle in one move with the Arithmetician. On my Tactician playthrough, I don't even use this job because it kind of trivializes a lot of things. It is fun to have though, and if you're struggling in the game, this is like the ultimate spellcaster for you. As I had mentioned, you don't want to be an Arithmetician really for that much long as those poor growth stats. So this is the build that I used to grind out JP so I could max out the class before switching to something else. Want to maximize speed with Thief's Cap and Hermes Shoes, have Ramza cast Tailwind on you, JP boost, fundamentals. And then if you're not grinding, you could do something like this where you use the perfume to give yourself haste, maybe items and throw items for emergency revives or heals. And then you switch to the book because you're really not going to be mixing it up fighting with the pole. And the trophy/achievement is called a calculated attack. Inflict damage on 3 or more enemies at once using the arithmetic abilities without harming an ally. So very similar to the Dancer, but make sure you don't hit any of your folks. Up next, the Orator. This job requires Mystic level 3, and it goes towards unlocking the Bard at level 5 and the Mime at level 5. The Orator uses the knife, which we know brings speed to the equation, and the gun, which is just the weapon power of the gun times itself, so no character stats. I wanted to put the actual stats of the magic gun in here because that's what I recommend using on the Orator. So the magic gun, the way it works is it uses either 3 different numbers, 14, 18, or 24, and that depends on whether it does Blizzard, Blizzara, or Blizzaga. Then it's the Orator's Faith times the target's Faith times the weapon power. They wear hats, hair adornments, robes, and clothes. Magic attack is what influences the success of the Orator's skills, so make sure you focus on equipment that increases your magical attack. The equipment of interest is the glacial gun, which I referenced earlier in the Chemist part of the video, but make sure you watch the guide on how to get that. Stat-wise, the Orator isn't amazing. Its base, it's got a C in everything but its speed, and for growth, pretty much B's across the board except for MP, poor evasion, minimal movement skills. The Orator job is a must for manipulating faith and bravery levels permanently outside of battle. For every 4 bravery increased or decreased in battle, it is a permanent plus or minus 1 outside of battle, and the same goes for faith. Now, when you're raising and lowering the bravery and faith of units, just make sure you don't do it too much. If you end up having too high of a permanent faith, your unit will actually leave you and go find God, and if you have too low of a permanent bravery, they'll be too much of a wimp and leave. In battle, if you lower their bravery too much, they become a chicken. Orators come with the innate skill Beast Tongue, so they can use all of these Orator abilities on monsters, which is great for taming or convincing human units to join you. And this way you don't have to steal every piece of gear from them. You can also learn Tame, which allows you to bring an enemy down to critical HP and it automatically joins you. And Equip Guns is great because you can then use guns on other jobs with the primary roles of altering stats and enticing units and enemies to come to your team. These are my builds. I have the Glacial Gun and I maximize magic attack with my equipment. Then I use time magic so I can speed myself up or slow the enemies down. Mana Shield to defend my max HP, and Tame to bring monsters to my team. Sometimes I like to bring Arts of War as well, so that way I have this ranged option of rending their speed or power, making that unit I want to entice easier for them to have less turns. The trophy/achievement is called I Want You, and it's successfully used Entice 5 times. Up next, Summoner. This job requires Time Mage level 3, and it unlocks Bard level 5 and Mime level 5. They use rods and staves, rods bringing magic attack into the equation and rods bringing physical attack. They can wear hats, hair adornments, robes, and clothes. And the main modifiers for their abilities is going to be magic attack, and then the faith of the caster and the target. Aside from some of the really powerful gear I've already mentioned for a lot of the magic users, early gear I would target for the summoner would be the Wizard's Robe in Chapter 2. This gives you a +2 to magic attack. And then in Chapter 3, the Mage's Staff, which gives you a +1 to your magic attack. And then eventually the Wizard's Rod, which gives you a +2 to your magic attack. The Summoner has pretty great stat growths here. As you can see, the MP is an S for both base and growth, and then you have an A for your base magic attack with only a B in growth. A C towards base speed is definitely not great, and then a B towards the growth, so you would need something like haste or something to help increase your speed, or the swift spell support ability. Summons have large area of effects. There are restorative summons, damaging summons, and then also there is a unique support summon with Golem. Summons can be really powerful and do lots of damage over a large area, especially if you can hit an enemy with its elemental weakness. You can take out groups of enemies at a time from a single spell. At the end of the game, there is a side dungeon called Midlight's Deep, and there is a boss at the end that casts a summon called Zodiarch. It needs to hit on your summoner for them to learn it. Golem is a unique summon that takes the summoner's max HP and it acts as a shield when hit by melee attacks for all your units. Summoners also have healing capability as well, making them very versatile. An example of a summoner build would be using equipment that's going to maximize your magic attack. Hopefully time magic as a support to give yourself haste so you can speed up the charge time of those summons. Swift spell also really helps. And then again, I like to do Archer's Bane on my magic users if I'm fighting any archers. Otherwise, you can use something like Nature's Wrath or Auto Potion. For Summoner, Trophy, and Achievements, there is Mystical Beings, summon 5 different espers in battle. There is the Ultimate Achievement where you learn every ability with a unit, and that hidden summon I talked about, Zodiarch, counts as one of those abilities. So you would have to learn that as a summoner to get that achievement. Up next, Bard. The Bard requires male units only, Summoner, and Orator level 5, and it does not work towards unlocking any other jobs. The Bard uses instruments and a bag. As we know, the bag has the random physical attack assigned to it. The harp brings in both physical attack and magic attack, and it is ranged. Usually the harps have a status effect that they inflict. The bards wear hats, hair adornments, and clothes. For their ability modifiers, the ones that restore health and MP are magic attack based. Otherwise, all their songs have a 50% chance success rate. Now, since I already mentioned the Hydra Scale bag for the Dancer that gives the +1 speed, I'll recommend the Fairy Harp for the Bard as an item of note. This gives a 15 weapon power and inflicts Charm, which is extremely powerful status effect. These can be poached from the second tier of the Dryad family called the Treant. The Tier 1 Dryad can be tamed as early as Chapter 2. The Bard stats are kind of meh. You've got a lot of Ds across the board, Bs for speed, and the only thing of note is really its magic attack, which is a base A and then a growth of B, 5% evasion, and the minimal movement. But with those poor stats actually comes some really nice abilities. The Bard is the other side of the coin to the Dancer, where the Dancer you target enemies with negative status effects, the Bard you target allies with positive status effects. It can be really helpful to have one of these just as a set and forget buffer for your team. It sucks that it's only locked to male characters, but movement +3 is one of the best movement skills outside of teleport, and it's only 400 JP. Being able to cast Nameless Song and random buffs on your teammates such as Re-Raise, Regenerate, Protect, Shell, and then being able to raise the physical attack, magical attack, speed, charge time. Either one of those targeting the entire team at once with a 50% success rate is amazing. With the Bard being one of those jobs where its skills are best used equipped to another job, here's a quick build. I prioritize speed with my equipment, white magic in case I need a raise. Mana Shield works really great with the song Seraph Song, which restores MP to everybody. Magic boost, so that way I have better magic restoration, and then move +3. You can really support an entire team of Mana Shield users using Seraph Song, just every turn restoring MP. The trophy/achievement is Allow Me a Song, utilize the power of 5 different Bard Song abilities. And lastly, Mime. The Mime requires a hefty Squire and Chemist level 8, Geomancer, Dragoon, Orator, and Summoner level 5. It is not used to unlock any other jobs. Mimes do not equip any weapons or armor, but they come with the Brawler ability, so they do use their fists, which takes into account your physical attack and your bravery since it uses Brawler. They also come with the abilities Beastmaster and Concentration. Beastmaster allows friendly monsters within 3 squares to use a hidden special ability, and Concentration makes physical attacks ignore enemy evasion. The Mimes have fantastic stat, base, and growths, but it takes so long to unlock that you don't start seeing these, and most of the benefits from a Mime come from using a de-leveling tactic. You notice a huge change with the base because you have an S in HP, speed, and an A in physical and magical attack, already amazing, and the growth is the same, an S in HP, a B in speed, and then an S in physical and magical attack. Low evasion at 5%, but a 4 for both movement and jump. Overall, a fantastic stat sheet. The Mime has no abilities or equipment of its own, relies entirely on allies to copycat their abilities. Here you can see I just cast a spell with my Mystic, and the Mime is going to attempt to do the same, but it does so at the number of squares away from the Mystic as the Mime. So no target was in that space, so it didn't do anything. Planning and positioning are so important with the Mime. You can see the Dragoon here is going to move forward to this Chocobo, and then it's going to attack 2 spaces away with its polearm. The Mime then tries to mimic the same, attacking 2 spaces in front of it, failing without an enemy being in that space. Another example here, the Time Mage is going to cast Cure on the Mime. The Mime then casts the same spell, the same number of spaces ahead, and is going to hit an enemy Chocobo. The amount of preparation and planning involved with using a Mime successfully honestly just isn't something that I look forward to or utilize in this game that much. It can be very satisfying though when you pull off something like this, a double summon essentially in the same area. It doesn't hit all of the same targets, but it does do additional damage. There aren't any Mime builds that I can recommend as they don't have any equipment or skills. There is a trophy/achievement called Direct Imitation where you use Mimic 5 times. And that hits 20. There we have it, folks. All 20 generic jobs covered in this ultimate job guide. Part 1 of a part 2 series. There will be a special and unique job guide coming out for the story characters. I'd love to know your thoughts on this part 1 of the guide. If there was anything that you learned, anything that you would recommend additional. Again, I love replies that leave new and additional information so that way people watching can scroll down and read those and learn some new things on their own. If you stayed this long, you were entertained, please give me a subscription. It really helps boost my channel to other people so they can get this as well. Share it with people that you may find it entertaining or it may help, and like the video. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out here with me. Can't wait to see you in the next videos. Check out the channel for way more guides that I've posted on Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, folks.